Welcome back, everybody. Today we've got the 2026 NFL Draft 12 sleepers that may be under the radar on other guys' draft boards, but I wanted to take the time to highlight these guys because I think they could actually end up being some of the gems of this draft class looking back on it. So feel free to leave me a comment if there's anyone else I missed, as well as your favorite prospect in the NFL draft. I'll be replying to everyone, so hit that subscribe button before we get started. And let's start it at the top this time. Let's hit it off with Eli Stowers. The tight end from Vanderbilt just set the combine record for a tight end as far as his vertical leap. A 45-inch vertical for a tight end is just freakish. I think if I had to give him a pro comp, it would be more of the Kyle Pitts, Isaiah Likely type build. I think he's kind of a bigger wide receiver just playing that tight end, which is kind of the new style for the NFL and tight ends. He is the athletic build, similar to Colston Loveland as well, that I think he could be successful from day one. I think no matter what scheme he gets put in, but if you draft him alongside your other big body tight end, I think they could actually pair well together. You can line him up almost anywhere, and I think Stowers is definitely in that top tier of tight ends. A lot of people mention Kenyon Sadiq and then just forget about the other tight ends in this draft class. But I think Eli Stowers is for sure a guy to make note of, especially in the second round where he's going. I think he could dominate from day one. Following Eli Stowers at number 2, it's going to be Antonio Williams, the wide receiver from Clemson. A slow 2025, and he was injury-plagued throughout the whole season. However, in 2024, over 1,000 yards and 11 touchdowns. He was poised to be kind of a first-round pick as far as the mocks going into the 2025 season. But due to the injuries, he's kind of slipped off everyone's radar. I know that you say, or you probably think when I say that he's under 6 foot tall, that he's kind of just this slot wide receiver and that's it. He plays a lot bigger. If you watch the tape, he's making contested catches. He was the alpha wide receiver for Clemson for the past 3 seasons. Anytime they need a big play, they're going his way. So hopefully, I think a lot of these Clemson guys are going to slip down the draft boards because of one disappointing season. But I think Antonio Williams is probably the cream of the crop of the guys that I would be targeting in the middle rounds for a wide receiver who I think has legitimate top 3 wide receiver upside in this draft class. So make note of Antonio Williams when you're watching the draft. And then we've got a Notre Dame Fighting Irish running back, but no, it's not Jeremiah Love. It's going to be Jadarian Price, the other counterpart to Love, who was in a committee the entire season, still averaged 6 yards per carry. This guy is an absolute monster. He was a beast on kickoffs and punt returns. His speed is the one thing that is just enlightening to a running back. I think he can get to the outside like anyone else in this draft class. My pro comp would probably be someone like Alvin Kamara because I think he's going to be used in committee because it worked so successfully in college. I think he's a great third down running back as well, but he can also split those early down carries to really just give your first running back a break. I think he's a guy that is probably getting slept on because you see Notre Dame and you just assume that he was the backup, but no. He was much more than that, and I think he's definitely firmly ahead of guys like Jonah Coleman or Damon Claiborne, in my humble opinion. So he slots in at number 3, and then following him at number 4, it's going to be Omar Cooper. The wide receiver from Indiana seemingly has fallen off some people's radars, but I think he might just creep into the late first round. He scored a touchdown in 6 of his final 7 games, and in the college football final, he actually had 70 receiving yards. In the biggest games, he was showing up big time, and I think he's a guy that was actually underutilized at Indiana. They had a variety of ways to beat you as far as leaning on the run game, and Elijah Surratt kind of commanding targets as well. I think Omar Cooper, if he's the feature of your offense, could actually be very, very productive. I think pairing him, if you have a team with one-star wide receiver like the Seahawks, or just like the Vikings, I think he can be a great counterpart as a wide receiver too, to hit the ground running, and I think he has a lot more to offer as a wide receiver prospect. Moving right along to number 5, it's going to be Mike Washington, the guy who's seen his stock soar since the NFL Combine, who ran a blazing 4.33 40-yard dash. So going into draft season, I think he should be on a lot of people's radars. I think he's probably in the RB3 or 4 range of this draft class, and yes, he can absolutely be a starter in the NFL. He's the body to do it. He's big enough, and he's also quick enough to hit the outside and be able to take it to the house from anywhere on the football field. I think he's one of the sleepers of this draft class as a running back. I know this draft class for the running back position is not nearly good enough as far as last year's was, but I think if you're getting him in the early third round, he could definitely be a guy like Blake Corum that spells your running back one and has fans wondering, is this guy actually more talented? I think he's going to break out onto the scene, and Mike Washington is a name to monitor. At number 6, we are going to go to Drew Aller, the quarterback from Penn State. Am I saying he's going to be the best quarterback from this draft class? No. But I do think there's a world in which he actually gets a starting chance at some point of his NFL career, and that's just due to all the intangibles. His physical traits are out of this world. He can throw the deep ball better than any prospect in this draft. You saw it at the Combine. He was hitting guys 50 yards down the field in stride. I think it's just kind of a byproduct of Penn State's kind of unraveling of a season after he got hurt, and just really everyone gave up in the sense that they fired their head coach, and now you just have this bad memory of Drew Aller in your mind. But let's not forget, he was mocked to be like the number 2 pick overall after their playoff run in 2024. So Drew Aller still has done it at the biggest moments of the season. He's a very capable passer, especially in the crunch time moments. He's had great success. Especially against Boise State, he dominated them. So I think if you're able to develop him a little bit more as far as his consistency and maybe utilizing his legs a little bit more, he could definitely benefit from sitting in an offensive system and all of a sudden coming onto the scene ready to roll. So he's at number 6, and then following him is going to be Chris Brazzell, the wide receiver from Tennessee. He is probably the biggest wide receiver in this draft class, standing at 6'5". However, running a sub-4.4 40-yard dash at the Combine was truly eye-opening for me, at least, because he has that downfield speed that you need as a big body wide receiver. I think my pro comp would be a better version of Quentin Johnston, and I say that because Johnston has had his drop catch kind of struggles early on in his career, but I'm not trying to compare those to Chris Brazzell. I'm just trying to say the physical attributes of being a guy that you can throw contested catches to in the red zone. Brazzell is most likely coming down with them, as well as the ability to kind of blow by you on the outside and be a big X wide receiver for your team. So I think teams that operate in the slot and just are lacking that big X wide receiver, teams like Buffalo could definitely get their hands on Chris Brazzell to make their offense just a little bit more dynamic, as he is the biggest wide receiver. So he comes in at 7, and then at number 8, we've got the guy that might go undrafted. So I wanted to just make you guys aware of Jam Miller. I've actually just watched a lot of Alabama football over kind of the course of this season, and he really stuck out to me. He's a guy that after watching the film, I thought to myself he would have been the RB3 or 2 of this draft class, but he was nowhere to be found. He's good in the passing game. He was kind of their whole offense as far as the running back position. So I think Jam Miller actually has high upside. The hit rate for Alabama running backs is very high, so it wouldn't shock me if he finds himself in a Brian Robinson situation where he just comes onto the scene and is suddenly way better than he was ever projected to be. So Jam Miller, as well as the great name choice and kind of ringing off the tongue, it's all clicking for me. So he comes in at number 8 just as an honorary throw out there. And at number 9, we've got a tight end, Michael Trigg from Baylor. A little bit deeper in the board, probably a 4th round pick. However, the 6'4", 240 tight end, I think, is just scratching at the surface of what he can become. He started his career at USC, then went to Ole Miss, and finally finished with Baylor. He consistently got better over his years, and I think that he is a big physical presence that could have the impact on an offense similar to Darnell Washington did, being a big physical run blocker as well as a red zone presence. I think that's the upside for him, but in a league that's shifting to the more athletic tight ends, I think you could still use the balance and size of Michael Trigg. So he comes in at number 9, and then at number 10, it's going to be Jacoby Lane. A little bit out of the ordinary, knowing that Makai Lemon is the talk of the town for the USC wide receiver prospect. But Lane finds himself kind of way deeper on the board than he really should be. You can make the argument that they were neck and neck in talent. However, in 2024, yes, the year before this year, Jacoby Lane outproduced Makai Lemon in almost every attribute of college football. And then going into the next year, they make the quarterback change, and Jacoby Lane is slightly behind Makai Lemon in targets and production. So it just makes you think that if they had a different quarterback, is there a world where Jacoby Lane is actually the top target for the USC Trojans. He's a little bit bigger of a wide receiver, so he can operate in the X and kind of be the game wrecker outside, getting to the boundary and getting upfield. But it seems like the quarterback in the recent year favored the slot wide receiver Makai Lemon, who, yes, I would agree is a little bit more talented and has higher upside, but I think people are forgetting about Jacoby Lane and his kind of prospects and overall development as a wide receiver going forward. And then we go to Penn State, the running back Kaytron Allen. Like I mentioned with Drew Aller, I think these Penn State players are getting a little bit too much slept on as far as their prospects and overall upside goes. He's splitting time with Nick Singleton all of his career, and I think he actually has the potential to take off and be more of a running back than he was asked to be at Penn State in reality. I think he's a high flyer as far as a running back in the 4th round that you could take with extreme upside. I think he could actually kind of project to be a Tyler Algier type running back that all of a sudden he comes onto the scene, is very efficient, and could actually give your running back a breather. So I think Kaytron Allen is firmly on my watch list, and I will definitely keep an eye on for where he lands because he will definitely steal some targets and some touches away from their star running back. And then closing it off at number 12, it is going to be Garrett Nussmeier, the quarterback. And a lot of these guys have a similar theme. It's kind of the post-hype sleeper in the sense that Nussmeier was another guy similar to Drew Aller that was poised to be a top 10 pick in this draft, but seemingly I think has fallen off a little bit too much. You see these guys that oftentimes get overhyped and then they turn into being a second-round pick, but Nussmeier is going to be in the late third-rounder. But I think he is definitely worth the flyer, and Nussmeier can be a guy in any offense, any coordinator. You give him at least one good weapon, and he's able to turn it into gold. I think the LSU system, once they lost their top-tier wide receivers, you started to see a fall-off. But being able to establish the run, which LSU really couldn't do in 2025. So if they're able to get him in an offense that he's playing in the play action, I think Nussmeier has as high as upside as any quarterback in this draft class. So he is going to cap off our top 12 NFL draft sleepers. Let me know in the comments below what other videos you guys would love to see this draft season. And please hit that subscribe button. I would really appreciate it. And that is going to do it. Peace.